everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Reaction Therapy Podcast. What a great show we have on tap for you today. Another artist interview discussion. We get to have Nick. I can't believe it, but we get to bring in Updog today. Yeah. One of the artists that we've reacted to. What's Up, Dog? The name of the song. And man, I loved watching that one because it had mental health, but I love the artist interviews.
Yeah, they're so cool because like Updog, you know, it's not like a Juice WRLD or NF, like a huge artist. So it's really cool to see these like smaller artists that have a lot of really good information in their songs. And I'm excited to talk to him to see what kind of mental health, I guess, mental health spotlight or mental health like topics he can talk about. I'm excited.
I know. And also, I'm sure the question he gets from every person he ever talks to is,
what does Updog mean?
What does Updog mean?
So hopefully we'll get to figure that out. I want to ask that. I want to find out. I like to get little tidbits of information about, you know, what's coming next and, you know, things about him. We've got some good questions lined up for him today and can't wait for this because, you know, one of our goals with mental health awareness to the world is through getting straight to these artists. And sometimes these artists, they put out songs, but we don't know like the person behind the song. And so for us being so mental health focused, we can ask them about, you know, the real issues happening in life, how they're dealing with them themselves, and then how they deal with them and the people that are listening. So very different than a typical podcast, but hopefully we keep getting more and more of these artists that are so good. I can't wait to meet Updog. Well, and to find out what his name actually is. Yeah, I'm
beyond that, because I don't think it's Updog.
I want to let y'all know that he is from Greece. He was born in Greece.
That's pretty cool.
He now lives in Berlin, which is pretty cool. So,
Germany.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Anything else you know about him, like from your expansive research?
Not really. The only thing I really know is that he does like to put mental health in his songs. He's said on multiple different articles that music is his therapy. Like he makes music for his therapy, and he puts all of his like deep thoughts and into his music.
So cool. And shout out to Colleen, huge supporter of Reaction Therapy, who has pressed on us week after week to get an Updog song in the reaction. So we did it, and then lo and behold,
he commented.
Nick follows up.
Yeah, and there we go.
And we got a discussion interview with him. So as we always say, without further ado, let's get into this with Updog. Giannis, aka Updog, thank you for taking the time to be here. Like, this is super exciting to talk to an artist that we've actually reacted to. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, man. It's an honor, and I loved your video reacting to my song, and I love all your videos. So it's really cool to be here, and you know, I love blabbering on about my music. So you know, anytime I can do that, I'm more than happy to.
Now we're on a podcast, and we get to just blabber on. That's really cool. But you have to tell me, because I'm fascinated. The name Updog, like, what's the? I know everybody asks you that, but where's it from?
You know, I started this project like 3 years ago now. And I was just like, I was trying to come up with a name, and I was trying to be super edgy, like, oh man, like some creative ass name, you know, whatever. And I was just watching The Office. I'm a huge Office fan. And it's the scene where Steve Carell is trying to do the Updog joke, and he's like failing miserably. And I was just like, man, I always laugh at that scene, even though I know it's like a total dad joke. And I'm like, it's kind of not funny, but it's also really funny at the same time. And that is my humor. I'm really like a person who makes bad jokes, and Updog is just like the quintessential bad joke. So I was like, hey, I got to call myself that. It's just kind of like ironic because the project started super serious, and then there's like this, you know, sort of dichotomy of like, you know, super serious music and like a really honestly dumb name, which is just who I am as a person. So I felt like it just defined me perfectly in that moment. So
finally, we get the answer to that. Okay, on top of that, music, artist, being an artist, has that been your entire life? Like, are you, where did that inspiration come from, and when did you start?
Sure. Well, yeah, you know, I gotta say, like, I think I've been writing music since I was a kid. You know, whether I was aware of it or not, I was just humming random songs in the car, and I would come up with stuff. I started playing guitar when I was really young because my dad put me onto it. I was in bands through all of high school and middle school. I was in choir and stuff, and I studied. I got a bachelor's degree in audio engineering. Kind of learned how to produce. And honestly, like the last 10 years, still, to be honest, I've been in the music industry, like working in a label as like a label executive. So I've been signing artists for years, and I was doing like the business side because I kind of like left the artistic side on the side for a while because I was like, I need to make money. I need to make a living off this. And honestly, it's like 3 years ago where I decided to kind of like, okay, like I got into this to make music and not just help artists who are making music. So I decided to do like a 1 month challenge for myself where it's like this website where you put your credit card details in and you get a referee and you put a challenge. And if you lose money. If you don't like kind of meet the challenge. So I put like, if I don't write 4 songs in a month and distribute them and finish them, I'm going to lose $200. And I got my wife's brother to be the referee. He's like, you know, he wouldn't let me. I knew for a fact he wouldn't be cool with like just being like, oh yeah, you did the challenge. He was like, no, you got to finish it. So that was like my kick in the ass to like get started, and I don't regret it at all. And that's kind of how Updog started. And you know, now I'm kind of like juggling. Well, I'm not juggling. It's pretty smooth, to be honest, but I'm doing my full-time job as a label executive at this company called Cloud Kid. We're signing a bunch of artists, big YouTube channel. And on the side, I'm just doing my thing as Updog and just like writing music in my spare time, just having a great time, honestly, just having fun, you know?
Wow.
So do you actually produce your own music? You said you were an audio engineer, like major in college. So do you produce your own music too?
I used to, and then I realized that's not my, that's not my specialty. I found like a much better producer who was like, this guy like is incredible. I've known him since he was like 16. I kind of like signed his first music, and we were good friends. So I just kind of like, I think the first few songs I produced basically fully and wrote and all that stuff. And then I was like, hey, dude, like, you're awesome. Can you please produce my music? Because this takes me like a month to finish a song when I produce it. Whereas now I can finish a song in 2 days with him and it sounds like perfect, you know? So
how do you balance? You mentioned a wife. I don't know about your family, but you mentioned a wife. You mentioned like a career. Like, how are you balancing this?
I think, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing my label career for almost 10 years now. So I'm at a point there where I'm like, I mean, it's a 9 to 5, or I mean, probably 9 to 7 or whatever. So like I have a relatively normal life on that end. I kind of know how to do that. And then, for like the Updog side, it's just like when I have some free time, I meet up with my other co-writer. We would go in the studio for a day. Once a month, we just like mess around, get weird and wacky, and finish a song in a day. And that's kind of like my approach. And then I have my producer. So for me, it's been about like connecting the dots and allowing myself to kind of do what I'm best at, which is just writing and singing and just like finding my lyrics through just living life. And my wife is super supportive. She's an artist too. Like this part back here is her art studio, so she paints.
Wow.
So it's just us two and our dog. So it's just like it's pretty chill.
So you don't waste time putting music out then. I mean, I talk about artists sometimes that take months, years, long process of producing music or getting it just right. Like you just go.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the last year or two, at least, I've definitely been trying to put out a song a month, at least. I mean, some point this year I was doing like 2 songs a month. It kind of depends on like my output or how inspired I am or how prolific, let's say, I'm feeling in the moment. But like I said, for me, like writing music is like, it's my therapy and it's my diary. And like a lot of people are like, oh, you should write a diary. I'm like, dude, I just write lyrics. So I need to put it out there because it's how I'm feeling right now. And for me, that's what speaks to me in writing music. It's like, I want people to know right now what I'm going through, what I'm feeling. If I'm sad, if I'm happy, it doesn't matter, just right now. So for me, that's why that model works. Because like I said, I've done it where I waited a year and then I was like, I'm happy now though. And these songs are really sad. And I'm like, doesn't feel genuine anymore, you know? So yeah.
So does your music kind of like come from real life, like events? Like does a lot of your music come from what's going on in your life?
For sure. Like, I think it's gotten to a point now where I can capture like daily events or just like what I'm going through right now. I think when I started, you know, I mean, I've obviously developed my writing style and I found my voice more, but I think when I started, I was definitely like just drawing inspiration from like just trying to be more dramatic and trying to create scenarios which weren't super real to me yet. But right now, like my writing is just very like, it can be as like just let's say as basic as like me going out for dinner and experiencing and be like talking about that, or going on vacation, having a bad holiday. So for me, just gotten to that point now where I can do that, and for me it feels creative and cool, let's say, you know. Yeah,
you set me up perfectly, honest, because when you said writing is your therapy, as a mental health professional, you know, we have a shirt that we put out with our merch that says reactions are my therapy. And for so many people, they've said that to us, like video reactions, they watch them, they get to watch the actual song and the video, and they also get to be able to hear somebody's take on it, and they can relate to it. And so I am such a huge believer in the mental health field, number one, of music, but also art and expression that gets people to a healthier place. So the key is what's in here has to come out. And if it's stuck in here, it's jammed up, it's corroded, and it's not good. So I love hearing an artist like yourself talking about getting what's in here out. And it doesn't have to be this magical analysis of our history and our past. And it can just be, look, I'm okay. I'm getting through life. I've got a job. I've got a family. But sometimes I feel like horrible, or I feel completely, you know, depressed. And it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. But I love how you said that it's your therapy. So tell us, like what is it therapy from for you? You mentioned a lot of stress points with just your life, but what would writing be therapy from for you? What does it help you kind of hash out and deal with?
Well, honestly, like what I've noticed the past few years is that I'm learning to understand myself through it. You know, like I've written songs, like when I write lyrics, quite often it just kind of like, for lack of better words, like it's like I'm puking it out. I'm not even thinking it. It's just like it's just thoughts that are it's a stream of consciousness that's just going on paper. And the interesting thing for me is like I'll go back and read my lyrics a year later, months later, and suddenly I'm like, oh, like wow, like this actually, when I wrote it, I didn't realize what I was writing, and it was a subconscious thought that came out, which now makes total sense. And I totally understand myself. And that's been my therapy. It's been like discovering myself. And I think the last years that I've been doing this, I've slowly been like chiseling into like finding the inner Giannis and being like, dude, like this is you, this wasn't you. So, you know, I think that's been the therapy aspect. And just also like when I'm just honest, when I'm pissed, when I'm sad, just laying it down on paper. That's always since I was a kid. Like I would write songs, and especially when I'd go through breakups, like I was hopeless romantic, and like, you know, 16-year-old Giannis getting his heart broken, like writing a song about it, like nothing better than that, man. So, you know, I think that's how it's been a therapy for me. It's just a way to get it all out and be cool with it. And even when I've had moments where I've dealt with addiction, just like even writing that down, hearing back the song, it just makes me feel more empowered in that moment when I'm going through a craving or when I'm going through a tough spot where I'm like, man, I don't want to give into it. Like even like What's Up Dog, when I sing just the melody, hey you, what's up? I'm like, okay, man, like you're good. You know, it's like songs for myself to empower myself. And that's always been, I don't write music for other people, as selfish as that sounds. So it's all for me to just feel it and feel better about it, you know?
That's pretty cool. Like to know, number one, I'm going to turn it off. And number two, I don't have to leave it there, sitting there. You mentioned, okay, one of our huge supporters, Colleen, she has been the one who's been amazing at reaction therapy, but she also was the one pushing your name for weeks of like, please do Updog. And finally we were able to do it. And when we talked beforehand, you mentioned it a few minutes ago. I feel like the imposter syndrome is kind of what creeps in sometimes on all of us. And I think she probably could relate to that. And you even have talked about it today, of sometimes the self-doubt of who I am or who I'm presenting. You seem like such a chill guy, like just hanging out and so normal here that it's hard to understand a little bit because of being an artist. But talk to us about the imposter syndrome for you, and just like, because I think a lot of people can relate to that, who we appear to be versus who we really are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the imposter syndrome is just something we all have to an extent. Even people who seem like they're super confident and okay with themselves. Yeah, I think imposter syndrome maybe is even sometimes, or self-doubt is sometimes what drives us to do things. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, for some people, obviously, it's like crippling. I don't know, man. My theory is always just like, you can let that like stop you from doing your thing, or living your life, because you're too scared, or you're too scared about people will think. But I think for me, what's also helped when I started Updog was just kind of like, hey, who cares? Grand scheme of things, stoicism. It's like, it doesn't matter. On the other hand, and then for me, it's also like, maybe this is really dark, but I ask myself, like, you know what, if I die tomorrow, right, or if I die right now, whatever, what will I regret? Like, will I be thinking about this moment and regretting that I didn't do it, or will I be like happy that I didn't do this because I had to do something else that literally didn't matter to me? So I try and live on that concept as well, where I go to a really dark place, I meditate on it for a second, I'm like, and for me, that's what made me start this journey. I was like, you know what, if I die tomorrow, what will I be the most sad that I didn't do? And that's, I didn't make music. And I'm like, why are you not making music? I'm too scared that I suck and people won't like me. It's like, who cares? Just try it. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Man,
so someone will hate your music. Big deal.
That's pretty well said, because we live our lives so much wondering about, and I think it's different, honestly, Giannis, me being an older guy from another generation, growing up with no social media or any internet or anything when I was younger, that there was less of that, because you did whatever you were interested in, or whatever you wanted to try to become, but there wasn't all this out there to see anybody else in the world doing something like that. And so the downside is there wasn't the access to create music when I was younger the way that there is now. So it's like a flip side. But boy, that imposter syndrome piece of, are we not doing something because we're afraid we'll fail, or because we're afraid other people will think negatively about us, and how crippling that is for so many people? How do you deal with your own, like, just mental health and keeping yourself balanced? Well, I mean, you kind of have already described that, but you got a lot of impressionable people out there who listen to you and hear your words. And honestly, like we talk about it all the time, people know you and you don't know them. And so how do you deal with your own mental health to not either overwork or to not take it too seriously and keep yourself balanced?
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing the internet has helped to an extent is that, like, it feels a bit more anonymous when you do something. Yes, people are watching you, but you don't, because you don't see them. It just feels like a void where you're just like, okay, sure. Like, I got 2,000 views. It's just a number on a screen. It's hard to like sometimes fathom what that means, or put in perspective. Like, 2,000 people is a freaking stadium, right? And you're just like, that's scary. But then you're like, but then again, nothing happened, you know what I mean? And I think that was the big realization when I started this whole thing. I was always so scared, again, of what we're saying is being judged, or people being like, me thinking like, oh man, what if people think I'm cringe or lame or whatever? And then when I did, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm still the same person I was yesterday when I didn't put it out. And that realization for me was like the thing that clicked, which was like, okay, easy. Let's just keep doing this. And then I think with the mental health side, I mean, I think the hardest thing for me in all this isn't the artist side. It's honestly being a business person in the music industry. I think that's the part which I've struggled with a long time. On like, how do I balance the two worlds? How do I switch off business and allow myself to be creative, and vice versa? I think I've been working at it for like the last 3 years. I feel like I found it, but I'm still not 100% there. I still have really hard days with it where I'm just like, man, like I should be like, from a business perspective, everything I'm doing is completely wrong. But from a creative perspective, everything I'm saying on the business side is completely wrong. So it's just like like fighting with myself. But I kind of learned to wear two different caps. I'm just kind of like, it's business Giannis, it's creative Giannis. But I think having just for me, it's been like the biggest support in my mental health journey, and like balancing everything is on it's been honestly my wife and my dog. Like maybe it sounds pretty simple when I put it like that, but like when I'm just sad, like even just going and cuddling my dog, like I can't tell you how much an animal can like help you get through stressful situations. Obviously, like meditating has helped. I mean, I don't meditate, but I've tried doing yoga, which is a form of meditation.
Yeah.
Definitely like physical exercise is great. I think it's easy for like, and I've seen you talk about this a lot, it's like easy for people to get into like drugs or whatever, alcohol, weed, harder drugs, cigarettes, like, and I'm one who's guilty of going into that and like using these substances as an escapism, as a form to just be like, I'm too sad right now, let me like do whatever. And I think I've also tried to as I'm maturing, I'm also like, if you're giving into those temptations when you're feeling sad, that's when the real issue is, right? Like, because you're not dealing with your problems. And I think for me, it's just been like learning how to just deal with really tough situations and just doing them honestly, sober, but also just like facing them head on and realizing it's not killing me, it's not ruining my life, it's just a rough patch, and I'll get over it eventually. Like, life moves on, and if you just know that there's everything will, if you just keep that in the back of your head, it will just get better eventually, as long as you just keep doing your thing and you keep having a positive outlook. I mean, those are kind of I've said a lot of things, but
that's very well. No, those are great. That's perfect.
So I want to ask you about, since you are an artist, I'm sure you look up to people. So who is like one or a couple artists that you look up to as a musician, but also like as a person too?
Man, it's tough to say from a person perspective, because I don't know a lot of these artists personally. So I think a lot of them might have a facade of being super good people, and I might be like, but then you get to know them and you're like, you suck, dude. So which is a real truth in this industry. Like, a lot of people really suck. But I from an influencer perspective, to be honest, like someone I've started looking up to recently, if that's cool if I talk about that angle, it's like I've really started looking up to PewDiePie, which is interesting, because for the longest time I thought he was like, I was like, okay, he's kind of a douche, he has like a long history of bad things. But the more and maybe this is again YouTube editing makes him look better, but I'm just realizing he seems to be genuinely like a really down-to-earth guy, and I'm just like, he's just living his life, he's practicing stoicism, he's learning how to like deal with his emotions, and he's kind of adopted the same mentality that I have now on the YouTube front, where he's just kind of, he says like, I'm retired, which just means like I don't care anymore like about impressing anyone, I'm just doing content that I like. And when I see that, I'm like, dude, that's awesome, like that's what I want to do. Music artist wise, like what I look up to creatively, like it's so tough. I listen to so much music, that's my job. So I'm always like finding new artists, but I think like someone I tend to look up to a lot is Tyler, the Creator, just because I just love, like, he as well, you can tell he just doesn't care, he just does whatever, man, and I'm just like, I love that. I just love that he's not scared to be himself. Also Lil Nas X, I really love and respect Lil Nas X, like the boundaries he's been able to break, as a starting in the country music lane and then coming out as a gay black man in the rap scene. I'm like, dude, like mad respect. And he's just doing his thing. So those are just kind of like two artists that pop in my head, which I'm like, yo, like I really look up to them right now. So
what kind of like, where do you put your music then in terms of genre? Like where does it fit? Because when I heard What's Up Dog, it kind of went in different which I love in music when I hear like this, it's not the same song the entire time. It has some gear shifting in it, but where do you fit today and kind of as time has gone on?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I continue to try and reinvent myself because I get bored very easily. So that's one thing. I don't know if I have like ADHD, but if I do, it would make a lot of sense. But like I started out definitely as a more sad, like kind of emotional, like alt rock artist. I then started trying to like rap, as you heard on What's Up Dog. I'm playing around with it a bit more.
Yeah.
Now I'm at a point where I'm like honestly making like super like poppy, chill music, but it still has this like ironic, cynical Updog vibe, which is me as a person. I'm rapping more. I'm starting to like write in Greek as well. Like I'm throwing Greek lyrics in my songs out of nowhere because I'm like, hey, no one's done that. Like, let's try that out because I'm Greek originally. So I'm like, yo, let's let's implement that. So I'm just kind of doing whatever, man, like whatever I'm feeling in the moment. And I love to experiment. I hate just being like, I'm gonna be this artist. Like I'm whatever I'm feeling in that month or period. So it's always going to be evolving and changing, I would say. That's the Updog project.
Well, I saw a comment, speaking of that, and the What's Up Dog, when I watched the video, and I saw a comment you made in there, and I don't know if you remember writing this, but I want to read it because it really spoke to me the way you wanted people to hear your message. And you said in there, if there's one thing I'd tell anyone, it's to not let your fears stop you from ever giving your passion or creativity a chance. You might surprise yourself. So I want to read that again for people so they can hear this, because it's pretty important to hear, I think, what his message is. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone, is to not let your fears stop you from ever giving your passion or creativity a chance. You might surprise yourself. Do you remember writing that? Because that was really well said.
I don't specifically remember writing it, but that was what the song was about. And funny enough, when you reacted to the song, that is, you kind of like dissected the song and you kind of made the point of that comment basically. And I was like, yo, like Tom's got it, man. You heard me, which was really cool to hear, because I feel like a lot of people just read What's Up Dog and they're like, there it is. Which was also on purpose. I love hiding messages in my music, which kind of people need to think about a bit more. But you know what? Like on that comment, going back to it, obviously, like, yeah, I surprised myself. I still surprise myself. I'm still like, oh, you can do that? Like what? Like I didn't know you could do that. That's crazy. And it's just it's allowing yourself, is opening your mind to your abilities and what you can do. And I think it's so ingrained in us as humans to believe we can't do things. It's just like how we're raised. It's kind of like, yeah, well, you're not that. And I believe that my whole life. I believe my whole life, yeah, you're not going to be a singer, like you're good, but like you're not going to be a recording artist. And obviously, like I believe that for such a long time. And now I'm like singing, and my voice is just getting better and better because I'm experimenting, and I'm open to it. I'm open to just like, hey, let me sound like the Backstreet Boys and see how that sounds. And it's like, okay, that sounds cool. Or let me rap. I was like, oh, I can rap. What the hell? So I just genuinely believe that. I'm such a firm believer on that. And I think being in the music industry as executive and business person for 10 plus years, what I also really realized and why I pushed myself to get on this journey was like, the difference between a person who's managed to make music a career, or just make music in general and for people to listen, it's just the people who just decided to do it. Honestly, it sounds very simple, but it honestly 99% of the time, it's just they just did it, man. They just decided to get over this first step and they put it out. It's not like, a lot of them aren't the best vocalists. They're not the best producers. A lot of them like, yo, I know 100 better people than you, but those 100 people are sitting in their basement being like, oh, I need it to be perfect. And it's like, just do it, man. Like, you know?
Well said.
So yeah.
Yeah. That was well
totally,
said.
yeah, that's totally true. I feel that way with what when we started too. Like we just decided to do it. We're like, we don't really care what people think. We're just gonna go ahead and see where it goes. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
For my last question, can you just give us like a day in your life? Because I know you do business and you also make music. So what does like a normal day in your life look like? Or is there a normal
good question?
day?
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I have a very normal life. I gotta
Sounds
say,
busy
like,
though.
it all like, I think it's all like, everything sounds busier when you see it like laid out, right? But honestly, my day probably looks like anyone else's. I just go to work in the morning. You know, if I'm not feeling lazy, I might go to the gym before work. You know, whatever. I'll walk my dog and come back, and you know, I just kind of like chill and watch TV and go to bed. Like,
yeah. What do you like to do on
a,
like weekend or free time? Like, let's say you're not recording, you're not having to go to the studio and do all that. What would you do first?
Well, I love cooking, that's for sure.
Oh,
like
cool.
I love to cook. I love to go in nature and hike and share with my dog and my wife. Definitely I love going to live shows as well. I mean, since I've been to Berlin, I'm definitely getting into more like going to live shows and just experiencing that. And just hanging out with people, man. I like doing deep talks with people like this. Like, I love this shit. Like, I can just go on for hours and go super deep with someone and talk about like life's big questions. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I gotta say, I don't put that much time in the studio as maybe it looks like. I think I might put like once a month, a couple hours to just like record my vocals, and then one session a month, which will be like with my co-writer for like 5 to 8 hours, and then we have a song. Like, because like I said in the start, like, it's about working smart. It's not about working. So I'm not gonna say it's not about working hard. It is about working hard, but more than anything, it's about working smart. And I've learned that you just need to work smart and know where your weaknesses are, and just, you know, let the rest take its course. So yeah, an average day is just a very average day for me, man. Like, I'm a pretty, you know, average dude. I gotta say.
I think that's a pretty good statement, though, that a lot of people, you said it before, can be either perfectionistic or have self-doubt. They spend so much time trying to perfect something or get something right that they don't just produce it, put it out. If you have a passion, if you want to try to plant something, build something, grow something, make something, that the best thing to do is, it's like the old movie Meet the Robinsons when you were little. It was so cool that, you know, the best way, you don't succeed if you haven't failed. You know, if you don't ever try, you don't fail, and you're not going to succeed without failing a lot before you actually succeed. And I'm sure you would say you've made a lot of music that you've looked at way back and thinking, man, where I've come from there, you know, like from there to here. I could look at our first beginning reactions and just want to throw up because they're terrible. And not that I was terrible, but I didn't know what I was doing nearly like I do now. And you as an artist, like, I can imagine what you learn, Giannis, being in studio with other artists and producing. You must really, that's a wealth of knowledge of how music is produced and what goes into it, like ingredients in a meal, right? Like, you learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting, like, just going back to what you were saying now and what you were saying earlier, you know, I think for me, like, the biggest, again, like, the thing I always try and tell people across the board is always just like, you know, you said like, oh, I can't write lyrics, so I don't want to be like a musician or a singer. I can't sing, you know, and I always kind of like point to DJ Khaled and I'm like, DJ Khaled, you know, he's just mastered the art of knowing how to put people together, and he's like super famous, and he has albums coming out. He has platinum
very
records.
good. Yep.
So again, the knowledge I've learned in going into studios is like, I don't go in there pretending, like saying like, I'm going to be the producer, I'm going to be the guitarist. I'm just like, what am I the best at? I'm the best at this. So I'm going to just like sit here and do this. And I'll just watch you guys do your thing and give people space. And part of working with creative people is just like learning how to let go of things and just being like, do your thing. I'm gonna do my thing, and I'll watch you, and I'm not gonna like micromanage you.
Mm-hmm.
And just one last thing I wanted to add to the last point you made was like, it's funny that you say like, oh, you look back at your old songs, and you're like, hey, that's super bad, or like, you know. And the funny thing is, one of my songs, like Useless, you know, like when I put that out, I wanted to scrap it. I was like, this sucks. This like a really bad song. I'm really cringed out by it. And it has like 6 million streams on Spotify now. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know anything about my music. Like the fact that it can get that many streams on a song, I absolutely hate. And that, again, the funny thing is the stuff I hate the most does the best. That's really annoying, by the way. I'm just like, why can't people just like the stuff I like?
That's the truth.
But,
And
you know,
Nick would be
life.
the one to tell you that those are the ones that have the most views. You're right, of what we've done. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just sat there like a statue. But people, there's so many comments. You're right, Giannis. Hey, the wisdom of Updog here to tell us, don't put yourself down, Tom, too soon. Tell us this, though. Okay, I want 2 questions to close this because I know you've got a lot going on. But first, what song of yours should we react to next? And actually, give us a couple. And then secondly, what is on the horizon for you? I think I read something where there's another song coming out real soon, but what's on the horizon? So what should we react to coming up, next couple songs and of yours, and then what's coming next for you?
All right, song wise, funny. I think you should react to Useless because What's Up, Dog? Because that is very much a song like it's a bit of a self-hate, not a self-hate song, but it's a very like yeah, it's similar to What's Up, Dog. It's just less wisdom, I would say. And that's just like just me being really sad in a song, basically.
Okay.
Which I think that'd be interesting. Man, also like Dollar Signs, I think it's a good one. I think that's like, you know, it goes deep into like how we just, you know, we live our life just wanting to make money and like be materialistic. You know, you get the point of that. And I'd be really interested for you to react to my latest song that it came out a month ago called Vacazione, because that is like the opposite of What's Up, Dog. It's just like me writing on my life right now and just going through my daily life. And it's called Vacazione. I mean, the title alone is like, what? What are you talking about? I love making up words, by the way, on songs. So you'll find in that song, I'm like, oh, that's interesting twist on that word. Yeah, those, I would say those would be interesting to see. And then what's coming up?
Yes.
Again, I'm just writing music all the time.
But isn't there a song coming out?
Yes, there's a song coming out on Thursday. It's called Change in My Pocket. And you know, that song is all about like me kind of embracing my new persona, or just who I am now. Like I feel like I recently moved to Berlin, and for me this has been like a really great move. Like I'm really happy finally, and I'm just like I'm just excited about life. And this song's about that, and just like forgetting the old Updog who was a bit more sad and introspective and depressed, for lack of, you know. So it's all about that, and about how I love to change. I love changing, man. I love changing myself, and I love rediscovering myself. And I think that's kind of the next era of Updog is embracing change and opening my mind to finding my true self. And also, interestingly enough, since I moved to Berlin, I've really embraced my heritage, which is, I'm like I told you earlier, I'm from Greece. So I'm really starting to like be proud of that heritage, because I grew up in an expat sort of upbringing where I never was ever in my country. I never lived in Greece. I always lived in other countries, in American schools. So, you know, it's always been like I've never felt home anywhere. But I'm like I'd want to just embrace my Greekness and sing in Greek and put more Greek influences in my songs. So that's going to be the next sort of chapter, an interesting journey of Updog. And last thing, I have like a show coming up in Berlin, like my first ever show as Updog. In the 3 years I've been doing this, I'm excited for it. I'm a performer at heart, so I'm like, it's nice to like finally
when
sing
is that
these
going to
songs
happen?
live. October 29th. Hasn't been officially announced. Yeah, I'll announce it. It's cool. It's just like a small show in Berlin. It's like a 60 people cap.
That's cool.
It's kind of like a very intimate show. Yeah, so I'm not gonna have a band or anything. I'm just gonna be singing with like my backing tracks and just having a good time, and
that's awesome.
Going crazy on stage. So
that is awesome. Well, hopefully somebody will record some of that and we could see it online somewhere. How about that?
Absolutely. Cool. Absolutely.
Giannis, aka Updog, you've been great. Like the most chill guest we could have, of just down to earth, and we really appreciate it. Number one, getting to hear your music. Number two, seeing you in person now, and then number three, we get to now go in to this music with more of a personal touch and knowing a little bit about you. This helps ton. Hopefully, we can do this again.
I'd love to, man. This was awesome. You guys were also super chill. I love your questions. Both really cool and down to earth guys, man. Like, love talking to you both. So I would love that. Would love that.
Nick, anything else?
No, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching our reaction to you, and hopefully you'll comment on our next ones too.
Oh man, we love that, Giannis. That helps us. And I'm going this week to listen to Useless. I'm gonna do that.
My least liked song, man. Now you'll have the context. You're like, oh man, he hated that song. But
I love it. Thank you so much, Updog. Appreciate everything. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye. Well, what an interview that was. I could have kept going. He could have kept going.
Yeah, he definitely could have.
He was so chill. And to just talk like a regular person that if you meet him on the street, he can just talk about whatever. But he clearly was into mental health. He loves creating music. He doesn't put too much pressure on himself to be anything amazing or perfect.
Totally.
And you know what I learned that gave me a little bit of peace of mind, reminded me of myself? He's got like a regular job.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine balancing, but I can, because it's like me every day. I do this, therapy thing, and then I come home and I record.
Yep.
And he's got a producing job where he's in with a bunch of different artists all day, and then comes home whenever he's got time.
Yeah.
And he produces music.
Yeah.
But he loves his wife. He loves his dog.
Very cool. He seemed like a very chill guy. I would love to, he's the type of guy I would love to just hang out with, He seemed like we could just, have fun and chill.
That's a guy that's totally relatable, that to me doesn't take himself too seriously, which is, I love of that.
Yeah.
And also is interested in other people. And I think he really appreciates what mental health is, and I can't wait to see what's coming next with him.
No, I'm excited. Go follow Updog on, I think it's Updog on Instagram. Go follow him. Make sure you stream his music, and can't wait to see him, see his new songs coming out.
We've got some more coming up. He's given us the ones he wants us to do. We're going to go do those.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of the podcast. Make sure if you want to see an extra bonus clip, to make sure to become a member on YouTube or subscribe to our Patreon.
Yes.
You can find about 5 to 10 minute bonus clip of the Updog interview. So make sure you do that.
There.
And and I think that'll do it. And we'll see you on the next
Reaction Therapy Podcast.